Welcome back to the deep dive. Today we're digging into some, well, frankly, quite alarming source material. It's centered around Daniel Trevor and his book, Unholy Trinity.
Right, how carbs, sugar, and oils make us fat, sick, and addicted. Trevor's a citizen scientist, came at this like an engineer.
And the title, pretty much gives the game away.
It really does. So our mission today is to unpack his main argument that these three sort of modern food staples, they're hijacking our metabolism, our brain chemistry, basically our health.
And we want to pull out his science-backed strategies, give you the key takeaways so you can maybe reclaim some vitality, get the crucial info quickly.
Exactly. And Trevor's own story is, wow, it's quite the starting point.
Yeah, talk about a wake-up call. He saw himself as Mr. Healthy, slim, active, no symptoms he could see.
Right, until, bam, a heart attack nearly takes him out.
Total shock. And that's what pushed him, right? To just dive headfirst into all the medical research, the nutrition science.
And what he found wasn't just about him. It was bigger. He concluded, and this is his quote, "What we've been told to eat for 70 years is killing us."
He points the finger squarely at the official U.S. dietary guidelines, the food pyramid.
He blames them for his heart attack. It's a pretty direct institutional critique.
And what's really interesting, Trevor notes this shift happening apparently right now, politically.
Yeah, the new FDA commissioner, Dr. Marty McCaffrey. The sources say he's actually rewriting the food pyramid.
Calling the old one, what was it? A broken piece of health misinformation.
I mean, that's huge, a massive admission from the top.
And apparently ending the, quote, 70-year demonization of and war on natural saturated fat.
If that actually sticks, it's vindication for people like Trevor who've been saying this for ages, that we got pushed towards industrial stuff over, natural foods.
Okay, but wait. Saying the establishment got it wrong for, 70 years? That's politically enormous. Is this really happening? Or is it still just a massive fight against, the food industry lobbies?
Oh, it's definitely still a fight. A huge uphill battle, no doubt.
Yeah.
But the fact this conversation is even on the table at that level, which the sources document, that's the key knowledge point here, I think.
Right. Regardless of how the politics shake out, his research forces us to look at the underlying science. Why were those old guidelines so potentially harmful?
Exactly. And that brings us to the core science he emphasizes. It really boils down to glucose, that's your blood sugar, and insulin.
The hormone that manages the sugar.
Precisely. So normally it's simple. You eat, glucose goes up, insulin comes out, kind of like a key, opens your cell doors, lets the glucose in for energy, then levels drop back down. Balance.
That's how we're designed to work.
But the modern diet, as the sources lay out, eating the wrong stuff, loads of refined carbs, sugars, and doing it all the time, snacking constantly.
Throws that whole system out of balance.
Completely. Your glucose stays high, your insulin stays high, your cells, they get, tired of insulin constantly knocking.
Cell fatigue, is that the idea?
Kind of. This chronic high insulin state is called hyperinsulinemia. Too much insulin floating around.
And that happens fast.
Shockingly fast. The sources suggest maybe 8 or 9 days of eating that way can trigger it. And once you have hyperinsulinemia, your cells start ignoring the insulin signal. That's insulin resistance.
Okay, so you become resistant, and that's the slippery slope.
That's the fast track, straight towards prediabetes, then type 2 diabetes.
And Trevor calls this high insulin state the gateway disease.
Yes, the source root cause. And this is where it gets pretty serious, because hyperinsulinemia and insulin resistance, they drive inflammation everywhere in the body, cellular stress.
Which connects to all those other diseases.
Exactly. Heart attacks, strokes, PCOS in women, some cancers, even Alzheimer's. Some researchers are now calling Alzheimer's type 3 diabetes because the brain becomes insulin resistant.
Wow. High insulin is just causing system-wide chaos, stiffening arteries, feeding inflammation.
And acting as a growth factor, potentially helping cancer cells grow. It's a systemic breakdown, like you said.
And it's often silent, right? That statistic he shared is chilling. 60% of people whose first heart attack is fatal.
Their first symptom is death. They had no warning signs because the metabolic damage was invisible, just building underneath.
Lurking. It really paints a picture of how widespread this must be.
And we have data on that. Trevor cites this huge JCC study, over 55,000 people. The finding, 93.2% are metabolically unhealthy.
93.2. Just let that sink in.
It means barely 7 people out of 100 are actually metabolically healthy in the U.S. population studied.
That's not an individual issue. That's a public health catastrophe driven by the environment.
Absolutely. The food environment. Which leads us right into the unholy trinity itself. The three drivers. Let's start with number one, refined carbs, specifically modern wheat.
Ah, yes, the heart-healthy grains myth. Trevor says this was his personal downfall. He believed it.
We all did, pretty much. But get this fact from the sources. Wheat raises blood sugar higher than a Snickers bar.
Wait, higher, even whole wheat. Doesn't it have fiber?
That's the trick. It's the processing. When you pulverize whole wheat into fine flour, you destroy the structure. It's powderized, as Trevor calls it.
So the fiber doesn't matter anymore.
Effectively, no. It gets absorbed almost instantly. Turns to glucose like that. The powder form bypasses the fiber's ability to slow things down.
It's basically solid sugar. But it's not just the glucose spike, is it? He talks about wheat being addictive.
Oh, yeah. The host part is wild. The sources explain that modern wheat, this stuff developed around the late 60s, early 70s, it was mutated, chemically or with radiation,
Mutated.
for higher yields.
Mm.
But a side effect was it dramatically increased a protein called gliadin.
And gliadin, that's the hook.
That's the hook. When you digest it, gliadin fragments hit the same opiate receptors in your brain as morphine, heroin.
Seriously, opiate receptor.
Yes, it creates actual physiological cravings,
Yeah.
intense ones, for bread, pasta, cereal.
And given that wheat is in almost everything, what's the stat? 59,000 out of 60,000 supermarket products?
Something like that. It's an environment engineered for addiction. It's everywhere.
Okay, wow. That's sobering. So our brains are getting hooked on wheat, and what about pillar number 2? These processed oils, the seed oils, the hateful 8.
Right. Soybean oil, canola, sunflower, safflower, all those cheap vegetable oils. The history here is just bizarre. Trevor points out they basically weren't in our diet 110 years ago.
Weren't food at all?
Nope. They started as industrial byproducts, like literal toxic waste from making cottonseed. They used it as machinery lubricant.
Lubricant for machines became lubricant for us. Grim.
Very grim. The classic example is Crisco. Procter & Gamble starts selling hydrogenated cottonseed oil in 1910. Shelf-stable, cheap fat.
And then?
2 years later, 1912, the sources mentioned the very first medically recorded heart attack. Now, correlation isn't proof, but the timing is, let's say, suggestive.
And the real danger now is how they're used, right? Heating them.
Exactly. These oils are polyunsaturated, chemically unstable. When you heat them over and over, like in restaurant deep fryers, they oxidize like crazy.
Turn rancid.
Worse, they basically become trans fats and create these incredibly toxic chemicals. He mentions H&E and hexene. Things linked to cancer and neurodegeneration, they drive massive inflammation.
So eating out means you're likely getting a dose of these breakdown products.
Constantly, if you eat fried foods or processed foods using these oils, the simple advice, cook at home with stable fats. Grass-fed butter, ghee, tallow, coconut oil. The stuff we were told not to eat.
It's an inversion of everything we heard. So connect the dots for us. These 3 things, the sugar, the refined wheat, these processed oils, they all hit the scene in the 20th century.
Broadly speaking, yes. High fructose corn syrup took off, wheat got modified, seed oils replaced traditional fats. And look what happened. Obesity goes from maybe 1% in 1930 to nearly 50% today. The timeline fits perfectly.
And there's that darker layer too, the deliberate engineering of addiction.
Right. Trevor brings up how big tobacco companies, when the market was shrinking in the 80s, bought up Big Food, Kraft, Nabisco.
And brought their scientists.
They're addiction scientists, people who knew exactly how to formulate products to maximize cravings and consumption. Finding that bliss point of salt, sugar, fat that makes you eat the whole bag, not just a few chips.
It explains so much about why it's so hard to stop eating these foods. It's not just willpower.
It's biochemistry and targeted marketing. But thankfully, the book isn't just doom and gloom. It's called How to Escape Their Grip. There is a way out.
Okay, let's talk solutions. First step, he says, is psychological. You have to acknowledge you might be addicted.
Yes. No shame, just realism. Then you actively look for swaps. Delicious but healthy substitutes.
So not deprivation.
No, that really works long term. Find alternatives. He talks about things like keto pizza with almond flour instead of wheat crust, using olive oil instead of vegetable oil. Find ways to satisfy those cravings with better ingredients.
And being an engineer, he's big on data, right? Measurement.
Huge on it. You can't manage what you don't measure. This is where things like continuous glucose monitors, CGMs, are game changers.
Why are they so powerful?
Because instead of one snapshot blood test at the doctor's office, a CGM gives you the whole movie. You see in real time how that healthy bowl of oatmeal sends your blood sugar soaring.
And then the insulin rush follows.
Exactly. Seeing that cause and effect right on your phone, it makes it personal. It drives change like nothing else.
And to help people get started, the book even points to resources, like getting your own labs done.
Yeah, there's a chapter by a Dr. Ford Brewer on key blood tests and even scans you can often order yourself online without needing a doctor's script just to see if there's hidden danger lurking.
Which brings up the whole issue of relying on doctors for this stuff.
It does. And look, the sources are clear. Trevor quotes cardiologist Dr. William Davis saying, "Health does not come from healthcare."
Oof, that's a bold statement.
It is, but the point is, many doctors, through no fault of their own really, just didn't get much training in nutrition or metabolic health. There's a huge hole, as Trevor puts it, in their education on this specific area.
So the message is you have to become your own advocate.
You absolutely have to. Take ownership. Get your own data. Seek out trusted sources that focus on root causes and prevention, not just prescribing pills after the damage is done.
But it can be done. Trevor himself is proof. He reversed serious conditions.
4 comorbidities, type 2 diabetes, fatty liver disease, gone by changing how he ate based on this understanding.
And his advice is just start small, little by little.
Yeah, don't try to be perfect overnight. Let your taste buds adapt. They actually do change over time. It becomes easier, sustainable.
Okay, so wrapping this up, the core message from this deep dive seems to be understanding this glucose-insulin dynamic and really getting the dangers of this unholy trinity, the refined carbs, the sugar, the seed oils. It's not just interesting info, it's fundamental.
It's essential knowledge for freedom, really. Freedom from cravings, from chronic disease progression. It's step 1.
And maybe we leave you with one final, pretty stark thought from the source material that really drives home the urgency here.
Yeah, it connects diabetic physiology, that state of metabolic breakdown, to really severe outcomes, like amputations. The sources cite a figure, something like 438 amputations per day in the U.S. linked to diabetes.
438 a day.
So if poor metabolic health is the gateway, fixing insulin resistance isn't just about losing weight or feeling a bit better. It's about preserving your physical self, your independence, your long-term agency over your own health. It's critically important.
Something to definitely think about. Use this knowledge, maybe take that first step towards checking your own numbers, educating yourself. That's the end of this deep dive.
See you next time.